Schedules can be found under the View tab in the center palette of the ribbon under the Create ribbon. You have Schedules list over here as well as Legends, and we'll go through Schedules to begin with. So under Schedules, there are a bunch of different types within Revit by default. You have schedule quantities, graphical column schedules, material takeoff, sheet lists, note blocks, and view lists. You can also access the ability to create schedules in the project browser. On the left-hand side here, you can see Legends and schedule quantities. And if I right-click on that, I have the ability to create those same different types of schedules again. If I click on the plus button, there's a couple here by default within Revit. When I double-click on it, that will open that up, and you'll see that they act a lot like a Excel file, essentially. But what they're doing is they're reading information from the relative geometry within Revit and reporting that back to you. So let's go through some of these individually, and we'll start with a room schedule. So schedule quantities is what we use predominantly most of the time. Graphical column schedule is really for structural engineers when you want to do exactly that. It will set out like a grid and show you what all your columns look like in elevation and how they compare in the grid intersection that they're closest to. That really doesn't pertain to us in architecture. Material takeoff is pretty good when you want to get quantities and volumes and areas of certain materials. The sheet list we'll utilize. Note block I've never utilized, and the view list I utilize only inside of the file. Really, it's the sheet list that takes precedence. So under schedule quantities, I'll click on that, and it brings up the ability to make a new schedule. Now this is the same regardless of the type. So firstly, on the left-hand side here, you have all of the categories within Revit, and it will then firstly break up the schedule by discipline or by category. So let's say, for instance, we want a room schedule. I'll come down to here and click on rooms. On the right hand side, I have the ability to name that schedule, and then underneath of that I've got the phase. So we haven't gone into phasing yet, but we'll just stick with new construction. Click OK, and then the next component is about the properties of this schedule. So first thing to look at on the left hand side is the schedule is around the room, so what data is available to pull from rooms. Underneath of that, those fields include like area, base finish, ceiling finish, count, apartment, all the rest of it. And then the green arrow will pull that parameter into the schedule field. Note that it's in order as well. So let's go, we want the area of a room. Let's put in the ceiling finish. We'll put in the floor finish. Limit offset. Name and level, and then we can move these around just by using these arrows down here. So I think I'll start off with level first, put level at the top, name second, area third, floor finish fourth, ceiling finish fifth, and limit offset sixth. Okay, and I can change this after the fact as well. I can then sort them and filter them. So filtering would be if I want to exclude or only include certain items, but I'm not going to do that here. Sorting and grouping will be how those are currently grouped and how they'll depict. Formatting we won't touch on now. Appearances, pretty self-explanatory. We'll come back to that. Embedded schedules I'm going to leave as well. So let's just click OK and see what happens. So do that, and now we've got the beginnings of our room schedule. So, and it's done a pretty good job of filtering this already. So the ground floor and those rooms, level 1 and those rooms, the relative areas, the ceiling heights, so the limit offset, and then floor finish and ceiling finish. So interestingly enough, with room schedules, this does not pull the information from the flooring and the ceiling types in those rooms. These are actually entities within the room itself. So if I go back to our model, floor plans, ground floor, and then just hit tab and select one of our rooms here, notice in the properties window, you have number, name, kitchen, and then you have base finish, ceiling finish, and wall finish. So let's say the floor finish here, that is this timber flooring, which is TFB01. If I go back into here, I can then go floor finish, TFB01. So that's our timber flooring. Okay. Now, if I go back to that room schedule, you'll see that that metadata has updated in the kitchen area. And same the other way, it can go bi-directional. So I go T, and once I start that, it will auto-complete anything or any other code or any other text that it remembers that I've previously inputted. So I could go like that, and then if I go back to the ground floor, go to the meals area, and highlight that room, you'll see it now has the same floor finish. All right, and so those the codification comes from the material, the floor type itself. So tile floor, TIL01 for our laundry and our powder room. So I can go back to the room schedule, TIL01, and powder room is the same. And you can see it auto completes like so. We can then also, we can go through sorting. So we can say here under sorting and grouping and say sort by firstly the level in ascending order and then by the name. So then we'll put in alphabetical order. So the moment starting with L, and then garage, G, and then WIP, walk-in pantry is third, but we can rejig that. So level is first, and let's go like that. And then you'll see entry is the first room, and then goes from there. Now we could put in room number, but we're not using room numbers on this project. But if I was in a commercial project, I probably wouldn't even have level. It would just be the room number, because normally the level is embedded in the numbering system. So that's room schedules. Let's just take a look as well at filtering. So if you ever want to filter information, we can say, for instance, I can filter by the level, and I can say the filter is level equals ground floor, and say OK, and it will only show you everything that's on the ground floor. You can do this by almost any parameter or any field. So filter is a very powerful tool. You can do it even with finishes by area. You can say that I only want to see rooms that are greater than, let's say 5 square meters. And you'll see now they'll only show you rooms in the project, both on ground and level 1, that are greater than 5 square meters. So it's a very powerful tool, filtering. We'll utilize this a lot more as we go further into Revit. Okay, so I'll just bring that back. That looks good. And then under appearance, we just need to change these to suit our typical types. So firstly, the graphical type is the type of grid lines that are utilized. That's fine. The text, show titles, default text, I'm going to change to be consistent. So the title text, 1.8. All of these I'll just change to 1.8. Say OK. Or actually the title I might change. Appearance. Title text I'll make 2.5. Alright, there we go. And then we can go to our sheets, cover sheet, just for now. We probably have to rejig some of these sheets. And then we'll see in here room schedule, just click and drag. And that now appears on the project. In fact, you'd probably want to perhaps put this on our floor plan. So if I go to our GAs, room schedule, like so. Again, we'll probably have to rejig these sheets in a little bit. I'm not too sure whether this is actually the best type of title block for us, but that's how we generate, say, for instance, a room schedule. Next up, we can look at door schedules, and you can do this graphically and with legends. So if we just look at a door schedule to begin with, in fact, I'll delete the door schedule that's already there. We'll go back to schedules and quantities, but this time instead of going up to view and then schedule quantities, I'm going to go into the project browser, right click on where it says schedule quantities, and then click on new schedule quantity. Again, I'll find that category, which is a door category. Say OK, and then you'll see here that there are much more parameters that are available for selection. So in this instance, I might want, and we can move these around as we go. So I'd say the mark is the first one. That's our door number. Then I would put in there, we could put in there, what else? You can put it in description, family and type, or maybe just the type. Height and width. So where are we? Height, width. Okay, let's go with that for now. No sorting and grouping, no filtering, but we will sort and group, and we'll sort by the mark. So door 1 through to door 8 or whatever it may be. Say OK. And there we are there. So that looks pretty good already. So description, it's actually got the, so this is actually a very common occurrence. So we've been using families that we have not created, and that some of them are imported from A&L, and some other ones are doors that we took from the standard Revit family, and also some of the door openings. So this is a very good example. So if I go up to level 1, and in the walk-in robes, we have these door openings that we used back in, I think, in class 2 or 3. So these door openings, even though there is no door, it's still classified in Revit as a door component or a door category. So it's still going to show in the door schedule, even though we don't want to show them. So you see that 21 is a door opening, and door 23 is also a door opening. So this is a good example of where we can try and filter these out. So we go to filter, and we say filter, it would be, we need to put some sort of mark in here that we can use to identify them. So you can see under filter, I can do it by mark, description, height, and width, but there's nothing in here. I can't do it by type and family. That's what I'd like to do. So I'd then say anything that equals door-opening do not show, but I don't have that ability to pick that. And that's pretty normal, to be honest. So under description, let's just go okay. Under description, we'll call this opening. And you'll see it's applied it to the other one too. And the reason why is because the description's a type-based parameter. So effect 1 affects all. So go back into filter and go back into here and say description does not equal opening. So description does not equal opening, click OK, and now those two drop away. So we don't have to worry about seeing them. And then the next thing is whether we actually want to see this at all. So that's the other thing we can do is some of these fields of data we want to be able to use to filter and sort, but we may not actually even want to see them in our schedule. So let's say I want to see the mark. The room is probably a good one to have next to it, and I don't want to see description. So I'm going to go into formatting and then click on description. And so I can then click on hidden field. So when I tick that, I go okay, and the field actually hides, even though under fields, you'll see that here still, description, but I don't see it in the schedule. So it's a good way. So you might need to put some sort of piece of data in here to then use to filter or control what you see, sort or group, but then you don't even want to actually see that in your final schedule. That's how you do it. I'm going to find as well, let's go. Okay, so the other piece of information we can do is at the moment, under the fields, we're looking at available fields for doors. If I click on this little drop-down box, I can also get information from the room or to the room. So a good example here is door swings. Whichever way the door swing swings into is the room that the door belongs to. So if I click on to room, I can say to room name and bring that in, and I'll move that up. And then say okay. So now you'll see door 1 at the moment, it's not going anywhere. Door 2 is going into the garage, door 3 into the garage, door 5 is going into the laundry, etc. I just want to double check that though, because otherwise it might be the doors are not around the right way. So let's go here. So door 5 goes into the laundry. If I look at the door schedule, door 5 goes in the laundry. Yep, okay, so that's correct. So that's good. So it doesn't, so doors are an interesting family because they pick up not just data about the family itself, that category, but it picks up, it's aware of where that door is swinging into, and you can grab information about that room that it's swinging into. Okay, so I'll clean this up a little bit further. So the family and type I no longer want, and the type I don't want either. So I'll go back into fields and I'll get rid of both of those. So family and type, get rid of it, type, get rid of it. But I want to get frame type, so I'll go frame type and go in. And the other one I want is actually the door leaf type. Now, I don't see that here. I don't actually see door leaf type, and we don't have any share parameters to bring in. So I can sort of hijack a parameter and utilize that for our schedule. So let's say type comments. So type comments is based upon the family type, not just the instance. So I'm going to go into that. And so I think this works. I'm going to go up and up and up, up. Okay, so we'll say okay. So we've got the mark of the door number, which room it's going to, type comments, the frame type, the height, and the width. So under type comments, we want to change this. So I can just go into this top column and rename that, and I can call that leaf type. And then under here, I can just type in solid core. And this will change all of those elements, although that's not a good idea. That's actually the garage door, so I'm going to leave that one. Let's find the one in the laundry. Solid core. And then it gives me a warning saying this change will be applied to all elements type single steel frame door 820. So all the 820 doors that are steel frame are going to get that added to it. So I'll say OK, and you'll see all of those have now changed. So all of these doors are 820 doors. The frame type, you can put that in there. So it might be a timber frame, could be pressed metal, which in this case it is. So I'm going to put in PMF, pressed metal frame, 01, type 01. All right, and those are instance-based parameters. That's why I can change them one-on-one. So I can update the information from the schedule, but to be honest, I generally will find it's easier to go into that view and see which one it's referring to. Revit does kind of help you. So let's say, for instance, this one here, it says bath. When I hover or when I click on that line, when I go to that plan, you'll see the door is highlighted. I haven't done anything, but it does highlight that door. But again, all information is bi-directional. So I can click on this door here, come down to, where are we? Frame type, and I can type in pressed metal frame type 1, and same deal. It will update the door schedule back in here. So you'll see that bedroom 3 solid core leaf has got a pressed metal frame type 1, height of 2040 and a width of 820. So I'm going to continue on and complete this schedule before chucking it on a sheet. Some other adjustments we can make to the schedule. I'm just going to go back to our schedule itself. So for this door here, door number 1, which we know is the front door, but nonetheless, one of the cool tools you can utilize is you can just select the line itself in the schedule and then come up to the modify panel ribbon and then click on highlight in model, and that will open that up. And it will say there is no views open that show you any of the highlight elements. Searching through closed views to find, searching through closed views to find a good view could take time. Do you want to continue? This is because I don't, as it says here, I've got no other views open currently in this model. I can say OK, and there isn't that many views, but straight away it's picked it up. So it's picked up, that's the door there. If I didn't like this view, I can then continue and click on show, and it will cycle through some other views. So that's not a good example. That's the site plan. Click show again, and that's shown it there. That's the true north plan. So you get the idea. That's pretty good. So, but if I have let's go back to ground floor. I'll close that off. Go to my door schedule, and let's go to one other door. Let's just say door number 7, and then go highlight in model. Picks it up straight away, takes me to door 7 in the model. So that works for any item that's scheduled in the projects, which works really well. Going back to the door schedule, some other things we can do. If you look in the modify ribbon, you've got striped rows. If I tick that on, you can see that those rows do indeed go striped. Another tip too, hold down control and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out of your schedule. It's really only a visual thing that affects what you're seeing here, nowhere else. The other one too is we can type in names for the rooms too. So door number 1 is open into the entryway, but for some reason that door hasn't picked up who it belongs to. So I can just type that in as well. The leaf type for that door is a little bit different. So that leaf type is a glazed door or glazed leaf. So I'm just going to type in glazed full height. And it's going to warn me, so I'm going to change that family type. I say OK. Oh, didn't do it. Okay, there we go. Frame type, I'm still going to call that, I might call that one timber double rebate 01, something like that. The garage door is, what would that be? That would just be a sectional roller. Frame type, frame type, I'll just call it NA. Okay, excellent. Some other things we can do, you can change the text, you can edit the text itself just by clicking and highlighting on it and going up to the modify panel. I'm going to click on font. I'm just going to make these the column headers bold. Okay, you can add shading as well. So a good example of that is here. Here is a door schedule that is much bigger in terms of the amount of metadata it's capturing. You can see there's at least probably about 30 fields of information here, but they are color coded. So that's to do with the grays to do with the room number, the greens to do with the leaf, the door leaf itself, the yellow is the frame, the purple is to do with door furniture, and the red has to do with security. So you can in a schedule this big, you probably don't need to, but you can just select that column and go to shading and give it a shading that you want, and that will appear in the schedule. So what I've done is I've just, for now, again, we need to clean up our sheets, but I've just chucked that on the miscellaneous sheet for now. Just clicked and dragged it. I'll do that again. So I'll just go door schedule, click drag onto the sheet. I'll just place it here for now. And then you can have control over how this looks as well. So you can see here, I want these to read sort of single lines. So full height glazing sectional roll is quite long. So I can just click on the schedule and just use these arrows just to drag them out until I get something that looks like this. Same with door number. I'm going to, that's better. Something that looks like that. Okay, so that works for now. Next, let's take a look at legends and how we work those. There's some pretty cool tools there as well. So we're going to draw a door legend, which is like a door schedule, but it's done as a legend inside of Revit. So legends are unique because you can place them on as many sheets as you want. All these views you can't place on more than one sheet. So the door schedule I just had here, if I go to my GA here and try and put that door schedule on here, whoops, oh, sorry, it does allow you to do that, that's my mistake. It's views that you can't. So if I go to another view, I go to my building elevation and try and grab my ground floor plan and drag that on here, you'll see I get a warning saying this view is already placed on sheet A01 general arrangement. I have to delete it there first and then bring it across. Legends and schedules can be placed on as many sheets as you like. So I'm going to go to my legend, I'm going to right click on legend, and you can go new legend there, or I can go up to the view tab and then in the create panel of the ribbon, I can go legend and create a new legend. When I do that, it's just going to prompt me to give that a name. So let's just call that door schedule. 1 to 50 is fine. I'll say okay. And it's like another blank view. It's basically like a drafting view, but it's a little bit more intelligent than a drafting view. What I can do is go down to my families in the project browser, click the plus. I'm going to go down to my doors. So I'll get rid of annotations. Let's find doors. And then the one I've been using is this steel frame single Australian door. So I click on the plus button, and I know I've been using an 820 and a 720. So I can take the 720 and just click and drag this into my view, and I get like almost like a block or a family. And I can change in the options bar. You've got here the family type, so you can see all my different door families are in here. In fact, all the different families are in here. And then the next is the view. So I can either do at the moment, that's the floor plan. That's why I'm getting a view that looks like this. But I can go here and go elevation back, and I get something that looks like this. And I can click and I can place that. And then I can grab the next one, which is the 720 door, click and drag. Same thing, go up to here. I'll go my back view, and I'll click and I'll place that like so. Now, what I need to do is I can align these doors using my align tool, like so. All right, and then we can add some more detail here using detail lines. So DL for detail line. I'm just going to grab a dash pen, and I'm just going to draw along here. And I'll copy that 2.7 meter. Okay, that's our ceiling height. Now, if you come down to the detail quality or the detail level of the view, at the moment we're in coarse mode, so we don't see all of the detail of the door. If I was to go to medium mode, we now see the door frame. And if I go to fine mode, I will see, why am I seeing both? I should be seeing the door frame and its architrave, but that's actually a good thing. That's okay. So just know that to play around with your detail levels, because the doors are shown to show different. They're set up to show different things at different scales. So I've got my line weights turned off, and that's important because you'll see the doors are very detailed in the way they're modeled. There is even a small, what is that? Probably a 2 mil. Could be a 2 mil gap or something like that. It's even less than that. Yeah, probably around 3 mil gap in the door to give us that true clearance. So I'm just going to pick up the door leaf, 1 and 2. And can I pick up the frame? .41 mil seems like an odd size. Oh, okay. Yeah, it still seems like an odd size. Okay, so I go something like that, and then 1 for the total clearance opening of the door. And I'll do the same for the other one. I'm hitting tab on my keyboard too. That's how I'm getting my my dimensions that I want. So it's a 720 leaf with it. Should be a 40 mil frame. Not sure why that's showing as 41. Just want to make sure I've definitely got the right door type. Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. What if I flick that around to the front, elevation front? Yeah, no difference. Elevation back is the one I want. Alright, so, and then the door leaf height should be 2040. Which it is, perfect. And then I can also do the total height of the door. Like so. Actually, I'll leave that. I'm just going to do the door leaf. Okay. And then what I can do is, again, just some text. And I'll use 1.8 text. And I'll just call this FFL. And CL. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't know whether this refers to ground floor or first floor. So generally speaking, it's better to just do FFL, finished floor level, and relevant ceiling level. And I'll go annotate, fill region. I'll just go for my solid black fill region. And I'm just going to do an inscribed polygon with 3 sides. So that's a triangle. And I'll just copy that up. Okay, so then it looks like that. So we can know how this, how these doors sit relevant. And then I can even grab my front door. So there's my front door. Click on that, drag that across. And what's the back view? Yep, that's the entrance. Click that. And then go again and do the same thing there. The other thing I might do as well, just to add some more detail, is I'm just going to use a pen 01. And I'm just going to go to where this hinge is and then come out, say, I don't know, 150, 140 actually. Come down 20, come across and back up. And I'm just going to go selection. And I'm going to move that in 75 mil. Good DL for detail line, take a circle. I'll go from this point. Draw something like that. And then I'll use my split command, so SL, and split that. Delete that, and then just drag this back like so. So that's my door handle roughly. But what I will do is just grab another dash line, DL, and I'm going to go 1000, and just do something like this quickly. And then I'm just going to move this to be where that door handle is, like so. And take my dimension from there to there. And some people like to have the dashed line going the whole way across to show the height of your door handle. Others prefer not, and just do something that looks like this for the first door handle and then leave it. It's entirely up to you. But I can take this and copy this across again from that point to that point. And again, copy from there to here. And I just need to take this and mirror it. I'm just using my move command here. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing with the front door when I get a chance. Okay, and then what we can do is we can continue to add more text there if need be. It really depends because we do have a door schedule. So at the very least, I'm going to use my text here and I'll just go Arial 3.5, go here, and this might be D1, D2, D3, etc. I'll make that smaller actually, 2.5. And then I can put in there with 1.8. And you can just type something in here, whatever that may be. So some people prefer to do their door schedules like this, where it's text, and then in here they'll have like door leaf type. So they'll say like door leaf solid core, so on and so forth. You get the idea. That's another way that some people like to do their door schedules. Either or is actually fine, but this is the methodology to do both. And how you graphically show your door schedule, again, is up to you. And which doors you cover in your door schedule, again, is up to you. It will vary depending on whether you want to show, for instance, do you want to show sliding doors in here, glass sliding doors, or are they a part of your window schedule? You can do this same sort of scheduling with your windows as well. So if I go down to our windows, and I find just like say, you know, the 3 sliding windows like this, I can take this one, the 2200 by 2100, click and drag. Okay, so that comes in as a plan view, and then go again, front elevation, and it sits like that. And that's how it would sit, because that would sit right on the ground level. In fact, I think it was 100 mil offset. That's what we chose to do. So it looks something like that. And then I dimension that up as well and put down which windows, which window numbers this window is referring to. It could be one, it could be many, like so. And same with these here. I'm just going to make these bold. Something like that, etc. I'll get rid of the window for now because that's not a window schedule. And then what I'll do is I'll come back up to my miscellaneous sheet, and then I'll go to my legends, which now has a plus icon. I click on that, and there's my door schedule, graphical. Just click and drag, and then I can place that here underneath of my tabulated door schedule, or I could put it next to it. So we've got the data here, both visually and graphically, for our door schedule. Wall schedules more often than not are graphical. You can have tabulated wall schedules like we did with the door and the room schedules, but more likely than not, they're usually graphical. I'm going to create a wall schedule, which is still done via the Legends tool. So I'll go up to View, Legend, New Legend, and I'll just call this one Wall Schedule. And I'm going to keep it to scale 1 to 50 for now, but we may change it after the fact. So again, into here we go. I'll usually start off with just some reference planes just to make sure that we're drawing somewhere relative, and we'll clean this up as we go. I'll then right click on my families and then go collapse selected, and then go open, and then come down to walls, double click, and then you have our basic walls. And this is pretty easy to determine because we have named them correctly to begin with. So wall type 1 is our brick veneer wall. So I'm just going to click and drag that. And again, we are seeing this currently in plan view, but I can change that to section. And then you have the host length. So I might make that say 1200. Now that brick wall will be 1200. Just click and hit escape, and it looks like nothing's happened because it's in coarse mode. Change that to fine mode, and now we see what that looks like. I can go turn off my thick lines, and we have something that looks like this now, which is a little bit more detail. Now, you can do this, and this is very helpful, but more often than not, you can't get that much detail out of here. So, for instance, you can't dimension it. You can see I'm clicking on the dimension tool, and it's not picking up on any of the references in the wall. Really not that helpful. And then it just doesn't look right. When I go to thick lines, it's going to look like this. Yes, this is expedient, but it's not overall that good, to be honest. So if we look at like example, say like this project here, where we've got like a brick veneer wall, we can draw something like this quite easily. And to be honest, this is how it's done most of the time. You'll end up negating this sort of parametricism in BIM, and essentially we'll draw over the top of this. We may not even use this. We may end up deleting this. It's a little bit sort of frustrating, so you're kind of thinking, well, I've got this here. Why can't I drag this across and use it? Most of the time, just because we end up adding so much detail to this wall that you end up losing any value that this object gives you. So it's not that big of a loss. Besides, I can't tag it. I can't pull any metadata out of here. It's just like a visual representation of wall type 1. So what I will do is I'm just going to set up some reference planes and just quickly draw this out. So it's a 110 brick, then it's a 40mm air gap, 90mm timber stud, and 10mm plasterboard. And this is this process now is basically how it is done in industry. So I'm going to go up to my annotate tab and go to component, and then click on repeating detail component. And Revit's pretty good. By default, they've already got one in here, which is great, which is called a repeating brick detail. If I click on that, I'm just going to click here and hit spacebar, and then just drag my mouse up to here, and we get something that looks like this, which is really helpful. It's like a much more detailed brick tool. And it's basically like a dynamic 2D block in a way. It's great. And the further I drag this down, it will grow and shrink the bricks by X amount. So that's a really cool tool. You can find more repeating detail components too, simply by going into component, where are we? We want to go to insert, load family, and then under Australia, we can go down to detail items. And then there's a bunch of really good detail items in here, masonry, brick. So if I click on masonry, you'll see here that first one is the one that we've got. And then if I keep going through, you can see there's these different brick styles, different. They've even got like a masonry tie. That's a really good one actually, having the masonry tie there. Keep going through, double brick. There's a double brick detail right there. That's really good. And there's just a bunch of others you can take a look through. Even, say, where are we? General, the brake line, we're going to use that. There's other ones like metals, carpentry, metal fixing and fasteners, and there's a bunch of bolts in here. These are all just really good tools to keep your hand off. Okay, so next up, that's our brick. Next up, we want to do our stud wall. I'm just going to use just pen 10 for that. Just trace over these two. I'm going to grab my, and one more for my, actually no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that differently, our plasterboard. I'm going to grab our detail component that we built earlier on, detail component, and go to our timber stud, 90 by 45. And I'm going to drag one there, one about halfway down, another one there. Go to annotate, grab my insulation, which is 90 mil, and just draw from there to there. I'm just going to click on my installation and then click on send to back. Okay, so my installation's in front of it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Another detail line, and I'll take a thicker dash line, and I'm just going to draw somewhere around here. And that is going to denote our waterproof membrane. Already I can see these lines are a bit too thick, so I'm going to make this drawing a bit bigger. I'm going to make it a 1:20. That looks a lot better. Alright, and then what I'll do to finish this off, I'll go region, field region, and we're going to make one that's a plaster board field region. So I'm going to edit type, duplicate, and I'll just call this one sand dense, and go to the foreground, the pattern, and go down to sand dense. Okay, yep, all good. And then I'm just going to use my pen 10 and then just do a box from here to here, and that will give me my hatch that you can see there. Alright, and in fact what I might do is just edit this boundary and just make those lines a bit thicker, because we are cutting through the plasterboard, so I'll make that a pen 2.5. Yep, cool. Alright, so I end up saying like this. I can then click on these reference planes and remove them just by selecting all, filter, check none, reference planes, click, and then delete. So it looks something like this now. And then what I'll do is I'm going to grab that detail component. I'm going to go insert, load family. I'm going to grab that break line. So detail item, general, break line, and then nothing happens, but I'll go up to annotate, component, detail component. There's that break line, and then I'm just going to click once there. And this break line is really cool, very helpful. So I'll grab it and put it down here somewhere, and you'll see it sort of whites out anything beyond that place, that position. And I can sort of play around with it to make the break line a little bit more sort of exaggerated. I can even rotate it, so it looks something like that, but I won't. I'll leave it like that. You can change how dense it is, how close it is, how much it's covering, stuff like that. So I could do something that looks like this, and then just go mirror, find the middle of my wall, which will be somewhere, I don't know, I'll just go somewhere around here, and then just use my move tool. Cool, so it looks like that. I'm going to delete that. And now, because these elements are actually drawn, I can go ahead and dimension these really well, really easily. So if we look at this reference here, you got the dimensions down the bottom, external, internal on the other side. And I might want to flip my wall around. I can do that easily just by selecting everything, going DM for mirror, and then unticking this button here in the options bar. It says copy. And then just take the center line of any part of the wall and just flick it over. So it looks something like that. Relatively easy. Okay, then I can go detail, DI for dimension. Okay. And again, I'm going to do something similar here. So on one side, I'm just going to write 2.5, bold. And then I can just add my annotation. So I'll use my arrow and then just click away. So I'm going to find where that text is lined up. Okay, and you get the idea how this works. So, you know, you might have a couple of these, and look how this graphically looks is entirely up to you and how your legend needs to look in working drawings. There may be a very prescribed way that these look. I'm sure that you're going to see a bunch of different examples of how these can be depicted. This is just one graphical representation, but it really does vary, again, from firm to firm, project to project, you know, even drafter to drafter in the way that they like to depict these. So if I do something like this, I'm just going to delete those two for a second. Well, actually, I'll bring that back. I'm just going to copy this across just so you get the idea. There might be another one there, and that's like wall type 2, etc. I'll just delete that, and then I'll go back to my cover sheet. Actually, my miscellaneous again. We got to clean this up a bit. I'll go wall schedule, drag it across, and it looks something like that now. And that looks like a very professional wall schedule. It's calling out our wall types in the project, and so I'll do that for each of the wall types. And again, there are many different ways that we can make them look. They can be like this, they can be vertical. We could have, instead of calling them out with information here, some people like to tabulate the information from top to bottom. So top line would be everything on the exterior down to interior. It really varies, but nonetheless, that is the process of creating legends, regardless of what they are. They're very much like a drafting view, but the power of them is that you can, in some instances, just drag the families, like with the doors. That saves you a ton of time than needing to draw doors and windows. You can just drag the families across. But then in other instances, like walls, you generally find it's easier just to draw them as 2D components. So these are basically like drafting views, and then stick them on the sheet as required. Let's take a closer look at some of the elevation workflows as we go. So we had our elevations originally set up on one sheet with a shaded finish. I've adjusted that appropriately to meet our working drawing requirements. And I'm going to go through the process of how I would detail and annotate these up. So I've divided them across two sheets now, north and east on one sheet. And then on the other sheet will be south and west. So I've just got the south on here, but I thought I'd just detail this up while recording. So double click into the view, and the first thing I want to do is I've got my landfall here, but I can see that the site is cut, the topography, and I want to hide that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go annotate and then masking region. So with the masking region, I'm going to take these invisible lines and I'm just going to draw from here down to here, across to here, something like that. And then I'm going to come back to here and pick a thicker pen, like a pen 1, and then just trace along here as best I can. Now, if I keep getting snaps appear, or like snaps keep happening to my mouse, I'm just hitting tab on my keyboard just to give me that freedom just to select exactly where I want. And I'm just sort of eyeballing this and tracing this at the moment, that cut line. Okay, and then I'll bring these up to meet. And then I'll say okay. And we end up with something like this. So it hides the it hides the cut pattern and shows us just the thick ground line, the thick ground plane. So next up, we want to add some, we may want to add some RLs to our building. So I'm going to go to my spot elevation. So annotate, dimension ribbon or dimension panel in the ribbon. Click on spot elevation. I've made a new one that's called filled arrow. And the way I've done that, I go edit type. You'll see here that now my symbol for my graphical spot elevation is this exterior filled triangle, and if I click on the drop down box, it will be one of the options that you can select. So spot elevation exterior, that's what gives us the upside down triangle. And then under units format, I've also manipulated this where it was previously ticked like this to use project settings. I've unticked that, chosen meters, and rounding it to 2 decimal places. Click OK and OK, and that now allows me to pick these points. So I can pick there, go like so, and now I get the black triangle with my RL in meters, which is a bit easier to read. So let's go, say, the top of the parapet. Okay, and then I can just click on that text and move that around as appropriate. Now that arrow might be quite big for you as well, so I've found that family type, which is the spot elevation. So I've gone into my my family project browser, into my families tree, and then come down to spot elevation, exterior field Oz, right click, edit. Here's that triangle there, and then I've just made that smaller, that triangle. Little tip for you, make sure you go VG, go annotation categories, and tick that on. So when you do that, you're going to see there's like an outline of the triangle as well as this filled region. And then just load back into project, and then you're good to go. All right, next up is some annotations and dimensions and whatnot. So for instance, I'm just going to go dimension, say top of parapet to FFL. I'll come out to here, FFL to top of this wall, and then top of the building. Okay, like so. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to copy from my other elevations. So I'm going to double click on the dimension, and then underneath my dimension string, just put in overall building height to NGL. Well, actually that's natural ground line, so I need to pick a point that is the natural ground line. So it'll be one of these levels down here. And then this one will be extent height of the wall. And then parapet to parapet height from FFL. So go okay. Go back to our elevation. Double click on the elevation underneath. Actually, in that instance, I'll put it as a suffix so it's next to my text. Click OK. It will look something like that. And then I'm just going to use a detail line, and I'm going to use my hidden line detail line and just draw from there across. From there across. And you get the idea of how we'll dimension that up. The next thing is the tags. So take, for instance, the wall tags, and I've noticed this in my floor plans too. I'm starting to get pretty strapped for space. So I'm going to update these wall tags. So I'm just going to go to my wall tag, edit family, and I'm just going to change this shape. So just double click on this, and I'm just going to turn this into a rectangle, just because, like I said, space is becoming a premium in this model. So I'm going to do something like this and go OK. So I just edited the boundary of that diamond and turned it into a rectangle. And so let's go load into project and close. Load into today's class. Do I want to save? No. Do I want to update the existing version? Yes, I do. Okay. And you see now all those wall tags have updated to be just rectangles. And if I go to my elevations, that just reads probably a lot cleaner than with those big diamonds from before. So I'll do something like this. Okay, so next up, I'll go to just add some other annotations. So I'm just going to copy and paste some of these annotations from here because it's some of it's the same. So I'll just take these and whatever other annotations you may have. Go to my ground, go to my south elevation, and I'll just paste them anywhere. And I can choose to just use these and move these around. Like so. And I'm just using my arrow keys. Something like that. But for instance, I'll take this and I'll copy that text. And let's just say I wanted to write some new text here. I'll go TX as a shortcut for my text. I'll choose the 2-segment leader, and I might just do something like this, and then put in that text regarding capping to the parapet, like so. And in fact, I might swap this one over to here. That makes more sense because there's still weatherboard finish there. And when I swap it over to the other side, by default it will put the leader at the bottom of the text, but if I come up to the modify panel, I can change this to say the leader is going to start from the top of the text box, and just drag that back so it looks something like that. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to also turn off in my building elevations view template. I'm just going to go to model display. And actually shadows, and I'm going to turn off ambient occlusion shadows just so it just shows just as a black and white image, like so, like that. I'm going to give this some dimensions as well, so I'm going to give the porch some dimensions like that, and the overall height of that porch area as well, something like that. And even our feature brick wall, I could do something similar there as well. But look, there is a few other things that I need to be looking at here, which is to do with how this all finishes with our ground, how it intersects with our ground so it reads correctly. So if I go back to, I'm just going to do something like that for now. If I go back to our 3D, I need to drop these walls down so they meet our topography. So I can just select these, and I'll deselect that, and I'll select this, and I'll come over to base offset, and I'm going to say minus 300, and that's enough now. So that's now intersecting with our ground floor plan, or ground floor plane, sorry, something like that. That's okay. We'll get more into topography and how to meet to the building, or like meet our brick veneer at the building shortly. So I'll go back to our details, our building elevation. Okay, that's better. Something like that. And I reckon I could probably add a few more notes, but I think I'll leave that for the time being. Now, the other thing that we're going to be adding in is our setbacks. So I'll just quickly draft what that can look like, but it'll be up to you to go through that process. So let's say, for instance, I can take just a dash pen 1 like this, and let's say 150 offset from the garage. I'll do something. Whoops. I'm not saying at all this is right. I'm just sketching this quickly just for brevity. So you might end up with saying it looks like that for your setback, and then the same on the other side. Now, we can change how these lines look just by hovering over one segment of the line, hitting tab so it selects all of the chain of lines. Click on it, and then right click, and then say override graphics and view by element. And then in here, we can just change this to a red line as an example. So it's the same dashed line, but now it's red. I say OK, and we end up with something like that. And then we can denote that that's our setback line. And just for instance, I'll just quickly duplicate the other side just for example. It may look something like that, but notice that because I've duplicated it, because it's by element, the way that these are visually represented, I need to select these and do the same thing as well to change the color of those lines. It's not really a tool that I would recommend using very often, but in little instances like this where it's just sort of one-offs, it's completely fine to do so. So that's the process of detailing up an elevation. A couple other things that we may want to adjust in here, and we are getting quite finicky into Revit now, but I'm going to take this, these level names to me are just too big. The rest of the text is all 1.8 or thereabouts, and then these are just way too big. So I'm going to find these level heads in the project browser, and we're going to edit them. So they're under, in the project browser, under families, annotation symbols, and then level head triangle Australian. I'm going to right click on that name and say edit, and that's going to open this up. So that's where we get the name, the elevation, and then this marker. So the first thing I'm going to do is take these two labels, and I'm going to go edit type, rename, and I'm going to make this only 1.8 mil as well. So okay, change the text size to 1.8. That might be too small. Maybe 2.5, let's say. We'll see how that goes. Say okay, looks something like that. And then I'll go VV on the keyboard, annotation, and I'm just going to turn on these reference planes and dimensions. Okay, just so I can see what this looks like. Then I'm going to click on this triangle, and then I'm going to click on the triangle and go edit sketch, select all of those lines, and then go scale. So scale up here in the modify panel, or I can just go RE for short. I'm going to click once here, and just drag that down to around there. Say okay. And then I'm just going to move this arrow down. And get rid of that. And then I'm just going to drag this down. And I'm going to change that label as well, so it's transparent, not opaque. And I'll move this up. I'll move both of them in closer. And let's just see how this looks. So I'm going to load into project, load it in today's class, override the existing version, and that already looks a lot better, but I'm going to move the distance between them. So I still have that open, so I'll come back to here. I'm just going to drop that one down a little bit, push that one up a little bit, load into project, override. That's better. It's a little bit smaller now and just reads a lot better than what it previously did. I'll just move that back into there. And that's going to update it for all drawings too. So if I go to my other building elevations, that's changed how they look here as well. And I think that is a lot better. Okay, so next up, I'm going to go into our floor plans, and you'll notice that all those wall tags have changed, like I mentioned before. And let's just take a look at, I'm going to go into our first floor. Click on the roof, HH for temporary height. Let's go TG and then just tag one of these floors. So TG, tag. There are no tags for floors loaded. Do you want to load one now? Yes, I do. What have we got? Annotations, tags, architectural, floor tag. Say okay. And now I'm just going to click once, and then that's it. And I can see there's this text here. And if I drag that over here, it says CPT01_20. So it's giving us the family type name, or the type name. That's the data that this tag is pulling. So I'm going to click on this and go edit family, and we're now in another label. So I'm going to go edit type, do the same thing as before, call this 1.8 millimeter, change the background to opaque, text size to 1.8, tab size 0.1, leader offset 0.1. Sorry, I need to change that to transparent, and okay. looks like that. Then I'm going to go VV on my keyboard, bring up the reference planes again so I can see where this tag is relevant to my mouse. Yep. And then I'm going to go create. And do we want to give this a masking region? Well, it depends on whether we want to give this a code or not, if we want this to be in a box or whatnot. I'm going to say no. We're just going to leave this. Oh, should we? No, I'll put it in an ellipse. So I'm going to go masking region. I'm going to click on the ellipse tool, click once, go from the middle, say out, something like that, and then something like that. I'll say OK, and that's very big. We'll see how that appears. Click on this text and go edit label, and at the moment you see it's the type name, so I'm going to click on this red arrow here to get rid of that parameter, and I'm going to find the type mark and then put that in because that's what we've been using. For instance, I'll call this FL0 of FLRXX. Go OK, and then I'm going to go load into project and close. Today's class. Do I want to save this? No. Do I want to override? Yes, I do, but I'm going to click the bottom one, override the existing version and its parameter value. And now we end up with something like this. Now, the reason why that's coming back is 0 because there is no type mark for this carpet yet. So if I click on the carpet and go edit type, come down to the type mark, I'm going to put in that code up here. So the code is CPT01. Help if I did it right. CPT01. Okay. Okay, and now the ellipse is updated. So that's now that's the carpet code for this area. Now, if you wanted just to say carpet, you can just type in carpet as well, and it will update that for all of the parameters. But again, if I click on that carpet, go edit type, it's now going to say in the type mark, it's going to say carpet. And it's entirely up to you on how you need to document your building. The reason why I'm using the code is because it's in the type name of the family as well. We've been using this codification system in our naming and organization. So I'm just going to move some of these around as well just to clean this up. And I can keep going around now. So TG for floor. Click on this tile here, and you're going to notice because this tile, and this tile zone were drawn as one sketch. When I hover my mouse over that bathroom, it puts the ellipse just underneath the lobby sign because it's the middle of those 3 floors. So I need to click it, and then I need to drag that back to here, okay, where I'll put in TIL01. That's now updated. I'll go TG flooring, hover over the water closet, but if I click that, you can see the tag ends up there. So now I need to click on that tag and then drag that into here and then do that one more time for the ensuite. It appears under lobby. Pick that up and move it into the ensuite. Same thing for all the carpet. Because the carpet's drawn all as one, if I was to tag the carpet in the bedroom, it's actually appearing just over the staircase. You can see that there because it's picking the center of all of these carpets. So I need to do that a few times, pick it, and then pull it back into the relevant room. And I'm going to continue doing this for all the rooms within reason. So I know the carpet in the bedroom is the same as the carpet in the robe, so I won't have to put one in the robe. Likewise for the walk-in robe over here, but it said carpet here, it's going to be carpet in there. And then the next thing is tagging the windows and getting some other information out of them. So we just have W1, W5, W6, so window number 1 through to 10 essentially. And we can see that too if I go back to our door and window schedule. I've now completed the visual window schedule, and you can see here this window is window 1, this sliding door is window 3 and 4 as an example. This bedroom window is window 7 and 9. So I've denoted which ones are what. But if I go back to our general arrangement, I might want to pull the size of the window out within this family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the window tag. I'm going to go edit family, and really quickly I'm just going to pull out a new type. So I'm going to go VV on my keyboard, annotate, show me the reference planes. Okay, I'm going to delete all of these boxes and the W, just so I'm left with this, and I'll drag this back up like so. Actually, I'll leave that down here. That actually works. I'm going to pull this and drag this out further, and then I'm going to click on this and go edit label, and I'm going to say get rid of the mark, but show me the height. All right, and then show me the width. And then you've got an example, so I can say, you know, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then you can put it in a suffix. So I'll go x, and then 0, 0, 0. How does that look? Okay, so I want to put it in a space as well. So hit spacebar. There we go. So it's going to look something like that. So I'll say OK. And then I want to save this as a new type. Very important this time. I'm going to go save as, family, and then save this to my project. So I'll just save it to my desktop for today, but I will save it in my area. I'm going to call this tag underscore window height by width. Options. I'll save one backup, say OK, and then I'll go load into project, today's class, and now when I hover my mouse over those windows, so as I come around here, I'll go to this floor plan here, I'll go TG, and you'll see now it picks up the size of that window. Every single one I hover around, it will do that for us automatically. And this is saying that you see more so in residential construction than in commercial, where you actually denote the size of the window. So I can move this tag further back and then just move this out a little bit. And the good thing is with all these tags, they kind of snap to each other, as you can see. Click on that and drag that out. In fact, I might want that text to be even smaller. So I'll go edit family. Click on this label, go edit type, let's rename it. I'm going to call this, let's say 1.5 mil. It's pretty small. 1.5. Okay, load into project. Yep. Override, yes. Okay, it's made that a little bit smaller. But you get the idea. So I'm going to go around now as well and tag up my windows with their sizes that's been reported to us. So you can see even on our floor plans, we've done extremely minimal amount of actual writing. Most of it has been pulling real metadata out of the model. So again, I'll go to this level now, TG, and I'll pick up that window. Now, if I wanted to change back my tag, I can just click on the tag, and you can see in the type selector, I've got window tag, and then I've got the new one I made, tag, which is window height by width. So I can switch between them. That's how you can have multiple tags pulling out multiple pieces of information out of your model, which makes the model really powerful for expediency in terms of actual documentation.